Angelo's and Vinci's is the perfect spot for your holiday dinner or party. Get your shopping done for everyone by purchasing holiday gift certificates. Feel the spirit at Angelo's and Vinci's, 550 North Harbor Boulevard in Fullerton. Call 714-879-4022 or visit angelosandvincis.com.
A CRN original.
Attention, you are about to hear the captivating voice of an icon in the movie industry. You have heard him and seen him in performances in over 140 films. He's met and influenced many world leaders, and now he's about to tell you how to unite the America he loves.
That job's filled.
Unique.
Brilliant. And unpredictable. Robert Davi is a Renaissance man who writes, directs, sings, and does it all with excellence.
Yes, okay, we're all very impressed, but let's get on with it now.
Robert Davi believes he should use his voice to both repay and help unite America, the America that made his dreams come true.
No more Mr. Nice Guy.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is The Robert Davi Show. Hello, friends. Welcome to The Robert Davi Show. I'm Mike Garey, once again sitting in for the great Robert Davi, out on assignment. Still in parts unknown, working on a project to be announced shortly. A project that I think is going to be quite thought-provoking and will lead to a lot of debate within here in Hollywood and without Hollywood.
Oh, it's going to be very controversial.
But that's what we like here. We like controversy because controversy leads to conversation.
Exactly. He just took the words right out of my head.
But so long as that, controversy doesn't lead to divisiveness that borders on threatening violence. And real fast, I want to talk about what's going on right now in the House floor. The House of Representatives right now is debating censure on one Representative Paul Gosar. He's a member of the House of Representatives from Arizona, and recently he got himself into hot water. Not the first time he's got himself into hot water, but he got himself into hot water because either he or one of his staff constructed a parody video in the style of anime. Anime is known as kind of the Asian style of animation, specifically very popular in Japan, South Korea, and very stylistic, highly stylized. But the content of this parody anime video clip was depicting the death of AOC. AOC, of course. Mrs. Ocasio-Cortez, very far left socialist member of the House out of New York City. And if anybody's heard me on the show before, you know that I have not nice things to say about AOC based on policy. But
no matter what, though, like, you can't be doing stuff like that or making things like that of other people, you know what I mean?
If I made a video that depicted me murdering young Nick over here, I would be fired.
Yeah. But deep down inside, Mike truly does want to murder me, though.
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. Only maybe like 1% of the time.
That's surprising.
But Mr. Gosar, and this kind of speaks to the way that political messaging has become what's known kind of colloquially in internet culture as edgelording. Edgelording is where you want to be the most provocative, the most controversial. Because, like we said, controversy drives conversation. And it also reminds me, too, and I heard this on the way over. I was listening to a political podcast where politics now is Yankees versus Red Sox. I mean, it's one thing when you're at the, a Yankees game. I'm a Yankees fan, and it's funny because young Nick is wearing a Red Sox hat across. We're not going to start fighting yet, but
the war will come later.
Look, if it's 1999 and you're at Yankee Stadium, or if you're at Fenway Park and you're holding up a sign saying, murder A-Rod, that's one thing.
That's
kind of different.
But if you like make an entire like presentation to like dedicated to the death of this person, even though it is still a joke, that's a pretty strange.
Well, behind every joke, there's a kernel of truth.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Last time I don't really remember too much of like assassinations of high-profile sports figures based on team allegiance, but this country has seen assassinations of political figures based on political issues, political violence. And Paul Gozer right now, he's being considered, the House of Representatives considering censure. Representative Matt Gaetz went up on the House floor, very conservative member of Congress out of Florida, and he defended Mr. Gozer. And what the censure would do is also strip Mr. Gozer of his seat on certain committees. Look, folks, I would never advocate for violence against anybody, especially a sitting member of Congress, because they're public servants. I think Mr. Gozer could have avoided this controversy if he immediately apologized, expressed contrition or remorse, or even just blamed it on a young staffer. I mean, that's usually what happens. Like, yeah, my social media director, he put that up without my knowledge. He is no longer with our office. But that's not what happened, because it's Yankees versus Sox. He had to double down. Otherwise, he would have been seen weak by his base. Sad state of affairs, folks. Like I said, I have plenty of problems with the squad and with AOC, but advocating for violence towards their person is a bridge too far, a line that has been crossed, and that needs to be dealt with.
It's also some pretty bad juju.
It's real bad juju. It's bad karma.
Yeah.
All right, another one that just crossed the old newswire is that the Department of Health and Human Services recently released data regarding U.S. opiate overdose deaths over a 12-month period, and the numbers are absolutely staggering. Fatal opioid overdoses surpassed 100,000 Americans in a 12-month period, according to the CDC. This report was released this week. It was based on provisional data. It found that 100,306 people died of drug overdoses from May 2020 to April 2021, an increase of 28.5% from the same period the year before. That's over a quarter more, folks. The majority of the deaths, 75,000, were linked to opiates.
When is it enough?
This is the first time that drug poisoning deaths, overdoses, surpassed 100,000 Americans in a 12-month period in United States history. Quote, this is a horribly tragic number to have surpassed, but it's unfortunately something I did expect to see, said Claire Zarensky, program coordinator at the Pharmacy Addictions Research and Medicine Program at the University of Texas at Austin, UT Austin. The report found that fatal overdoses from synthetic opioids, specifically fentanyl, which is up to 50 times more powerful than heroin, were up, accounting for 64% of all deaths. Deaths tied to methamphetamine and cocaine also increased. This period was the deadliest year on record for overdoses in the United States. Experts have said that one factor that explains the spike in overdoses is the prevalence of fentanyl in illicit drug markets. Fentanyl is increasingly being cut or completely replacing heroin in the former heroin strongholds of Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Ohio, Maryland, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia, otherwise known as the Pill Valley. Per reasons, perhaps, researchers said COVID and working from home were a big factor because people were working from home. Also, a lot of people were unemployed and depressed. Depression and substance abuse are causally linked. Also, the pandemic made it harder for people to access health care for drugs like methadone and Suboxone, which are used to treat opioid addictions. We've talked about this before. It started with Oxycontin. Now we're seeing fentanyl. And what's the answer? How do we handle this? In Europe right now, and also in some progressive cities around the United States, you can actually go and buy a little kit, a testing kit, which you can actually put your illegal heroin in this testing kit and determine whether or not it contains fentanyl and what amount of fentanyl is in there to avoid overdosing on fentanyl. Now, the question, there's always an age-old question about this. This is the same question, the same debate we had about needle exchanges back in the 80s. do these programs encourage drug use? Heroin's illegal, folks. It's illegal. It's a class 1 scheduled narcotic, highly illegal, highly addictive, highly dangerous, highly illegal. And when you put programs in place that tacitly endorse the fact that being like, hey, we know people are going to do this. We know it's illegal, but we want people to be safe, so we're going to put these testing kits out so people can avoid overdoses.
I don't think that's a good idea.
You don't? Why not?
Because I think that's just making the users, it's making them think like, oh, it's evolving. Like it's becoming more accepted. Like that's what's going on inside their head.
It's the one step forward towards complete legalization.
Exactly.
I don't know, folks. I mean, I would love to hear from the listeners about this. If they want to tag us on Facebook or on Twitter, what they think about this. Because, yeah, I'm torn. I don't have an answer to this.
I think it's a bad idea. Like, obviously, this fentanyl, this whole situation is bad. Obviously, I wish it wasn't real. I wish none of it was a thing, but it is.
100,000 deaths, folks, in a 12-month period. I mean, we thought
when is enough enough?
Yeah, I mean, that's on top of the hundreds of thousands of deaths of COVID, too.
They're not doing anything about this.
100,000 deaths in a year.
Not a thing. Nothing's changing. It's just getting worse and worse.
And unlike COVID, where the majority of people who passed away, sadly, there are exceptions, were, elderly people. These opioid overdose deaths are young people. And just practically speaking, you're taking young people out of the workforce. What's that do to our economy? Years from now, are we going to have a demographic bell curve? What they're happening in Japan right now, where there's not enough young people, not enough workers in Japan right now to fund through their taxes the social programs that seniors rely on. I'm really worried about that. Is that going to happen here? So we're also seeing the birth rate in this country decline too, because of multiple factors. Factors we might discuss after the break. Stick around. Davi, back in a minute.
I'm Al Simon, 91 years young. I created Balance 7 20 years ago. At 67, I went to see the doctor for the first time in my life and found that I had medical problems. He told me that was normal for my age. I don't believe God intended us to be sick and old. I decided to find something to bring my health back. For 10 years, I studied pH and how important it is to the human system. Balance 7 gave me back what I lost by getting older. I no longer get out of bed with a joint discomfort. Balance 7 can do for you what it has done for me and many others. In 3 days' time, you'll feel more energy, less joint discomfort, and clarity of thinking. No doctor or hospital can do what Balance 7 can do for you. Balance 7 is the key to unlocking the healthy immune system. Bring your body back to balance. Order now. Receive free shipping with the code word AL. Go to balance7.com. That's balance7.com. Order now and get your free shipping and a free gift with your order. Go to balance7.com. Use the code word AL.
Do you want to fly somewhere, anywhere in the world? Smart travelers call myflightsearch.com for the best deals on flight tickets. Going to Manila, Bangkok, London, how about Singapore? Call myflightsearch.com for the lowest flight tickets available. What about a local vacation? Let's say you want to fly to Vegas, Orlando, Miami, Los Angeles, or Denver. Pick up the phone and call myflightsearch.com right now. We have exclusive deals that you can't find anywhere else. The only way you can get these low airline prices is by calling us. We have so many low prices available, we can't possibly tell them to you right here and now. If you're flying somewhere anytime in the next 6 months and you want the lowest airline ticket prices anywhere, you owe it to yourself to save a ton of money. So pick up your cell phone and call myflightsearch.com right now.
Call 800-445-3166. 800-445-3166. That's 800-445-3166. Call now. 800-445-3166.
You order a glass of your favorite Cabernet, fresh asparagus, hollandaise on the side, a filet, medium rare. You unfurl your napkin with a flair, close your eyes, and prepare to listen. Ah, there it is. The sweet music you long to hear. The sizzle. The sizzle of a Ruth's Chris steak.
The most magnificent corn-fed prime beef, broiled to perfection at 1800 degrees. Some call it a sizzle. We call it an anthem.
As the waiter approaches, you think, is this one mine or that one?
Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. Like Ruth always said, life's too short to eat anywhere else.
Make a reservation online at ruthschris.com or by calling 800-544-0808.
Robert Davi.
I want you to know this is nothing personal. It's purely business.
And we are back, Robert Davi Show. Mike Garey sitting in. Thank you so much for joining us. As always, this fine broadcast is available right now in stunning high-definition video on Facebook.com/CRN Talk. Also, all previous sessions are available on YouTube. Just search for the Robert Davi Show CRN on YouTube. Also available on podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. Search for the Robert Davi Show podcast. Also available on Amazon, Alexa, and Google Play. Last segment, we were talking about the opioid epidemic, and we kind of got on off a little fork in the road about declining birth rates, and data that my crack research staff just provided me with is that the birth rate in the United States is the lowest it's ever been since 1979. People aren't having enough babies. 1.6 births for every 1,000 for every one woman. Just back in the 70s, pretty much it was static for a long time in the latter half post World War II, where it was about 2.3 children for every one woman.
50s though.
Well, I mean, back in the
baby boom
19th century, though, I mean, because of agrarian economics, you'd have 9 kids. You'd have as many kids as you can, because the more kids you'd have, or more hands to work in the field.
Oh yeah. But this actually surprises me though, because I thought it would have been the opposite. Like, given the pandemic and the circumstances, you know, people are just going to be spending a whole lot of time together. So I thought there was going to be a little bit of a baby boom. But
that was quite elegant, what you just right there. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. But also, I mean, there's been advances in contraception and just, you know, more education about sexual health.
Yeah.
But I studied this extensively in college about aging demographics and what it does to a national economy. And I used the example of Japan, where Japan's birth rate, and we're also seeing this in South Korea happen now too, where the falling birth rate, what happens is you want what looks like a curve, what looks like an oval, where your population is most populous in the middle, your working age in their 30s. And then the oval, at the apex of the oval, is where you want your elderly population. So you have more young workers to pay into the social safety net system and also into the economy at large to fund healthcare, retirement benefits, social services for our elderly population. But if we don't have enough babies, what happens is it looks like an inverted diamond, where you have a larger number of the older populations compared to the tax-paying workers. And this has been disastrous to Japan's economy. Japan's economy right now, you think we have bad inflation here in the United States, and we do. We might speak on that later, but inflation in Japan is double digits. So the question is, why? Why aren't we having babies? Full disclosure, I am a middle-aged childless man. And it's kind of nice. You're unfettered. Every dollar I make is just for me.
I also have another theory.
What's that? Go ahead. Lay it on me.
I also think this goes for men and women.
Okay.
Both, so nobody get offended.
Be careful.
Nobody's like loyal anymore. Everyone's in it because it's weird now. Like nowadays, it's okay. We've been taught that it's okay to go and hook up and just hook up with people until you find the right one.
Uh-huh.
And that's just like, that's the wrong idea. You know what I mean?
That's an interesting point, and I think you might be onto something there. Also, I think a big part of it, too, is that, hey, man, listen, it's 1929. Bad example. Let's say it's 1905. Majority of Americans are living in rural communities, on farms, small towns. This is how you get married back then, is that your dad has a buddy a couple miles down the road. He's got a daughter. Says, hey, you seem pretty nice family. See him at church all the time. Hardworking, good. Y'all want to get married? Cool. It was more of a practical decision rather than just like an esoteric decision. And I think you're right. I think through the media and just through socialization in general is that we expect that there's a perfect person out there for everybody. We just got to find him.
Yeah, there's no freaking Prince Charming. There's no Cinderella. All right?
No, Nick's heated.
We're human beings.
Exactly. We all have our fables and foils. We all have our picadillos. And I think marriage and relationships in general have gone from a partnership of companionship, of love, of support, and practicality has gone to that true love. And folks, listen, divorce rate in this country is over 50%. Literally everybody I know's parents are divorced.
Mm-hmm, me too.
And, growing up, you got one foot in the pond where the media is telling you that, true love lasts forever, that humans designed to mate for life.
At this point, I'm not saying, because there are still people in love nowadays,
of course, yeah.
But at this point, my idea of love, I think of it the same way as I do the dinosaurs. It's extinct.
Wow.
It was once here. They once roamed this earth.
Nick, do you have something to say? Are you have you gone through something in your personal life recently that might be explain why your pessimistic outpoint about life and love?
Well, I mean, nothing really personal, maybe, but I don't know. I have a strong opinion on this, and I get heated because past things have happened to me before. Like I've been with a girl. Things go great. They say, the whole 9 yards. They say everything. Oh, I love you. I want to get married. And meanwhile, I'm just sitting there, like cruising, just slowly easing into things.
Well, you're a young man.
Yeah.
I mean, you still have, wild oats to sow.
Yeah, I know.
But there is a lot of societal pressure, especially and this is...
I've been with people older than me.
You sure have.
And I still, it's the same thing.
Yeah. But I think that there is a gender disparity here with the societal pressure. I think it's far more societally onerous on women, especially as they get into their early 30s and beyond, where, I'm seen as just the middle-aged, childless man, free and easy.
I mean, we all are, unless we have a Lamborghini.
Well, yeah. But my point is that, like, I'm not really necessarily looked down upon in society as a whole as being a childless middle-aged man, whereas a childless middle-aged woman is. And that's unfair.
That is unfair.
And I think that puts pressure on women a lot to, especially...
Why are they childless and middle-aged, though?
I don't know. A lot of factors.
Yeah.
Why? I don't know. Why am I childless and middle-aged? Fear. I think a lot of it's fear.
Yeah, no, but it's... When it comes to, I guess it's a different point that I'm thinking of. I don't know. Whatever that's happening right now, we're all doing it wrong, and we need to.
I think we are. I think a lot of us are doing it wrong, and I think that the propagation of hookup culture. I think you're right about that, Nick. I think hookup culture in general,
because it gets us into the groove of getting into things and getting out.
Exactly.
And starting over. It's this, it's just going to...
And I think that different people... It's very rare that you find two people to meet at the same time with the same expectations about relationships.
Yeah.
It's very, very difficult. And so I think that, open, honest communication about one's wants and one's needs and one's expectations about relationships are really important. But as everybody knows out there who's listening... That's a hard conversation to have.
Another thing, every time I don't open up to a girl, they want me more, but then I'm not, connected with them because I don't share anything about my life. But then the second I do, it's a whole different story. It's like they're less interested all of a sudden. It's Robert Pattinson tested it out. Some random girl wanted to hang out with him one day, and he hung out with her and talked to her and just released all his problems on her, and she never wanted to talk to him again. Davi will be back in a minute.
what are you so happy about?
I'm on the pill.
Aren't you two a bit old to worry about having more kids?
Not her, me.
You lost me there, buddy.
Steelman pills. Things weren't always looking up, if you catch my drift. So, my doctor prescribed me a little something.
Like Viagra?
Yeah, but that's expensive, and it wasn't covered by my insurance. Steelman pills cost me less than $3 a pill, and virtually the same effect. I just called and got over 40 pills for only $99.
I have this friend who might be looking and...
Well, if your friend wants some help, the consultation is free over the phone. No clinic. Steelman Pills sends it in the mail in a confidential package.
I'm on it. I mean, my friend will be on it.
Steelman Pills, going the extra mile to help men with erectile dysfunction.
800-605-1683. 800-605-1683. 800-605-1683. That's 800-605-1683.
For the getaway of your dreams, come to Hawaii's Playground, Ka'anapali Beach Resort, on the fun side of Maui, where the world comes to play. Find your spot on Ka'anapali Beach with 3 miles of white sand, 12 resort properties, 2 golf courses, and 2 shopping centers. Enjoy the playground of Hawaii's ancient royalty. Ka'anapali Beach Resort is Hawaii's original master planned destination resort and home of the Hawaii Food and Wine Festival. With views of 2 neighboring islands, you can breathe in the land's natural beauty from your favorite resort or golf fairway. Come experience Ka'anapali's own special brand of Hawaiian hospitality with world-class dining, relaxing resorts, water sports, and activities of every kind. For romantic, family, and great friend getaways, discover the options of Ka'anapali Beach Resort, where the world comes to play. Plan your getaway today. Visit Ka'anapaliResort.com. That's KAANAPALI Resort.com.
Let's talk about your credit cards. When you first start using them, it's a slow drip. You make charges, then more charges, then bills come, and they keep coming. When you open your statements, the floodgates come pouring in. You realize you have more credit card debt than you can afford, and you're barely making the minimum payments. Wouldn't it be nice to make one affordable payment and have all your credit card bills covered? Make this free call and learn our responsible way to get your credit card bills paid and under control.
Sponsored by Consumer Education Services, a nonprofit organization.
800-876-3643. 800-876-3643. 800-876-3643. That's 800-876-3643.
CESI is not a loan company. The establishment of a debt management plan may adversely affect your credit rating. Non-payment of debt may lead creditors to increase finance and other charges to undertake collection activity, including liquidation.
Have you heard about Vine to Bar chocolate? It's the winemaker's chocolate, the world's first chocolate made with well-vined Chardonnay marc from the beautiful coastal vineyards of North America. Gently pressed grapes are harvested after juicing, dried and finely milled and carefully blended into the finest dark chocolate. The Chardonnay marc contains highly beneficial grape nutrients, flavanols, and has a natural sweetness that flavors the luscious dark chocolate. Mouth-watering, flavorful, delectable dark chocolate goodness with Chardonnay sweetness and beneficial nutrients. And it's alcohol-free, too. It's Vine to Bar chocolate. Order some today at vinetobar.com. That's VINETOBAR.com. Cold shipped to your door, it's Vine to Bar. Vine to Bar chocolate. Visit us at vinetobar.com.
The Robert Davi Show.
This is authentic.
Una furtiva lacrima negli occhi.
And we are back. Thanks for indulging us with that last segment. Nick had some stuff get off his chest.
Sorry. I get a little animated sometimes.
Let's talk briefly about a local issue. We're out here. We broadcast from Los Angeles, California, but this story, I'm sure, is going to be talked about not only in Los Angeles, but around the country. The Los Angeles Board of Supervisors. They are right now debating whether or not to decriminalize bicycle infractions. And the rationale behind that, bicycle infractions being not obeying the rules of the road, which most cyclists don't.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
I know we're gonna get letters about this because the cycling community, they bristle when it comes to any sort of commentary on not only their riding habits but also the debate between whether or not infrastructure and city planning should be structured around non-automobile transportation. But this is not the debate that the LA Board of Supervisors is discussing vis-a-vis the decriminalization of bike infractions. They say that bike infractions disproportionately affect those who are people of color, the unhoused, and people at the lower strata of economics. This is why we have Donald Trump. Literally, this is why you see this kind of overarching reach towards the right in America right now. This is ridiculous. The LA Board of Supervisors isn't talking about housing the homeless. They're not talking about any sort of measure to reduce housing costs or transportation costs at large. They're talking about decriminalization of bike infractions. So that person on that bicycle there that you always see that is like riding right in the middle of the road and just blowing through stop signs, they are terrified of crashing into, because you know if you're in a car, you're going to be held at fault. Quite possibly criminally and civilly.
Which is not right, though, because they shouldn't be in the middle of the street. They have a bike lane.
They do have a bike lane. They have a bike lane at the expense of hundreds of millions of dollars in costs when they put bike lanes all around the city, but also dramatically increased congestion, because now where you had a 2-lane thoroughfare, now you have a 1-lane thoroughfare with a bike lane. I know I'm going to get guff for this, but cyclists, they are treated like a protected class when they are less than, I would say, 1% of the total commuting persons in Los Angeles, and I'm sure less around the country. And are we going to see anything involving quote-unquote disparate communities pandered to? We've already kind of seen this with the homelessness. I mean, there's other legalities involved. There's a case out of Boise, Idaho, which kind of set a legal precedent about camping on public streets vis-a-vis the homeless. This is a case that the Fifth Circuit here heard a couple of years ago, where you really can't, quote-unquote, clean the streets of these tent cities unless you can document that there is shelter space available for those who you are displacing. Also, there is precedent set by the ACLU in certain cases about property of homeless people, where if you do remove homeless people from certain areas, even if they are camped there illegally, that you have to provide storage for any of their belongings. And Nick, you've seen it when you drive around.
No, yeah.
Every day when I come to work, I go underneath the 210 underpass at Figueroa, and there's a homeless encampment there. And my guys down there, they have couches, they have TVs.
I think literally if you just any overpass that you like go under, or a bridge, freeway bridge you go under, there's gonna be like a little homeless there.
Yeah, it's sad. It's sad, but also like I drive by, I'm like, oh, that's terrible. Look at that. Oh, that's awful. And then like I'm like, wow, look at that guy's setup. He's living large.
Oh yeah,
it's got like a nice.
Some people, I saw it one time. This was in Melrose, in a little alleyway. This guy had an extension cord. He was stealing power from someone's apartment or some apartment complex. I don't know, but it was leading to his tent in this little alleyway. It was like hidden, and he had a TV in there.
Yeah,
TV, little chair, and then like some blankets and stuff. Like he was chilling.
And I mean, for a certain extent, I mean, if you had to find an apartment here in Los Angeles, you're making minimum wage. Let's say you're making, I don't know, a little under $2,000 a month, and how your apartment costs $1,800 a month. What are you gonna do?
It's literally impossible.
Also, that we're seeing too, you know, RV camping, car camping has become endemic here. But this decriminalization of bike infractions also, we saw this in San Francisco where any thefts of under $950 were not considered felonies anymore. It used to be $500 was grand theft. Now it's $950. So it's pretty much catch and release on anybody who shoplifts under $950. And I don't mean to sound like Breitbart over here, but there has been organized groups of shoplifters who will go into a Target and just steal at will.
I keep seeing like video after video of that.
Yeah.
That's a big issue. It started in San Francisco, I think, and now it's like all over the place.
Yeah, Robert has spoken about it a couple times.
Yeah.
Actually, I believe he played some video clips.
Yeah.
And decriminalization of bad behavior in furtherance of a social justice agenda is not only disingenuous, but it's also counterproductive politically. I mean, if you see the LA Board of Supervisors using the language of bike infraction decriminalization as a social justice issue, even someone like me who takes social justice issues very seriously, it makes me want to pull my hair out. Because I know what's going to happen. This is going to be on Fox News. It's going to be on Breitbart. It's going to be on all the conservative outlets saying Los Angeles does it again. They don't care about the normal taxpayer. They only care about, and they don't necessarily, and this is the way they frame it. The right wing will frame it not as a social justice policy, but as pandering to the social justice warriors out there. And I agree with that. Because if they really cared about social justice, there's a lot of other things they could do. Yeah. Not decriminalize bike infractions.
Yeah. A million other things I can think of that are a lot more important.
And a lot of other things that I think that are nonpartisan issues. Homelessness is a nonpartisan issue. Cleaning the streets up is a nonpartisan issue. Democrats, Republicans, liberals, conservatives, centrists can all agree that's bad to have hundreds of thousands of unhoused people on the streets. It's bad for the unhoused people. It's bad for our communities. It's bad for property values. It's bad for crime. The other day I saw a clip on Twitter. It was an underpass in downtown in one of the most massive homeless encampments we have here in Los Angeles, and there was a huge fire at one of the tents. Because unlike your apartment, unlike your house, if you're living in a motel or a hotel, those have fire codes. Your tent under an underpass, which, like Nick says, has an extension cord with like 30 things plugged into it, not necessarily approved by the LA County Fire Department.
Not really that safe.
Also, these homeless encampments become open-air drug markets. Crime among homeless people, far, far, far more than the non-unhoused. Violent crime, murder, rape, assault. So the LA Board of Supervisors, I know that the bike riders here in Los Angeles, actually, funny aside, if you really dig deep into the origin of Antifa, some of the founding members of Antifa were part of what's known as Civi LA out here, which is kind of like a bicycle gang. Like the Hells Angels of fixed gear bicycles.
Really?
And they evolved into that. Look into it, folks. It's interesting. Davi, back in a minute.
The smartest way for you to get the lowest prices on your plane tickets, domestic or international, is to call SmartFares first or last, but you've got to call us before you book your plane tickets. Fly anywhere in the world, fly anywhere in the U.S., and SmartFares can save you up to 75% on your plane tickets. We have the lowest airline ticket prices on over 500 airlines, and you've got a great 12-hour free cancellation window. Plus, with our Live agent help, you can always get fast help and fast answers. So on your next trip, maybe today, maybe tomorrow, how about right now? Pick up your phone and call SmartFares, plus save up to 75% on your plane reservation. So call right now. 800-915-2644. 800-915-2644. 800-915-2644. 800-915-2644.
You order a glass of your favorite Cabernet, fresh asparagus, hollandaise on the side, a filet, medium rare. You unfurl your napkin with a flair, close your eyes, and prepare to listen. Ah, there it is. The sweet music you long to hear. The sizzle. The sizzle of a Ruth's Chris steak.
The most magnificent corn-fed prime beef, broiled to perfection at 1800 degrees. Some call it a sizzle. We call it an anthem.
As the waiter approaches, you think, is this one mine or that one?
Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. Like Ruth always said, life's too short to eat anywhere else.
Make a reservation online at ruthschris.com or by calling 800-544-0808.
What are you going to do with your old car? You can try selling it, you could junk it, or you could donate it to Heritage for the Blind. Your car will be towed away for free, and your donation is tax deductible. Just call 1-800-785-9618. Heritage for the Blind accepts cars, vans, trucks, and boats. It doesn't matter if your vehicle runs or not. It will be towed away for free, and you'll be supporting those that need help. Heritage for the Blind is a nonprofit organization that helps the visually impaired live fuller lives. Call right now to donate your car, and as a special thank you for calling, you'll receive a free 3-day vacation voucher to many exciting locations. Call Heritage for the Blind right now, 1-800-785-9618. Donating is easy, and your vehicle is towed away for free. Plus, you'll get a free vacation voucher. Call now, 1-800-785-9618. That's 1-800-785-9618.
The Robert Davi Show.
Mike? You let me down, Mike. You're making me look bad. I thought we had an understanding. And all I expect is a little cooperation!
Sorry, Robert. And we're back, Robert Davi Show. Mike Garey sitting in. Once again, I want to thank Robert Davi for allowing me this opportunity through his largesse to host this show. Robert Davi will always have a special place in my heart, not only for being a fantastic broadcaster and a true gentleman, but introducing me to the Panzerotti, which is a deep-fried calzone, which I've never had before, which has changed my life.
One of the best things ever.
It sure is, indeed. Before, in the segment 2, Nick and I did the Robert Davi relationship hour segment, and you mentioned a story about Robert Pattinson that I'm intrigued by. Please fill it in.
Okay, so I found that story for you, Mike.
Yeah.
You can find this at goat.com.au. And here's the headline. The headline says, Robert Pattinson once shattered a fan's fantasy of him by going out with her. Reverse psychology at its finest.
Okay, give us the crux of the article.
Now, here's what it says. It was back in 2009, and the name of Robert Pattinson was synonymous with Twilight and teen heartthrob junkies. As it sometimes happens when you're a young Hollywood star who is the face of a major franchise aimed at teen girls, he also had a stalker who apparently liked to stand outside of his apartment every day for weeks. But rather than call the cops or barricade the doors, Rob decided to go out and have dinner with her because he was so bored and lonely. Now, this would seem like a dream for a twihard, but it didn't exactly go according to plan for the stalker. According to Rob himself on the Today Show, he just complained about everything in his life, and she was so turned off, she never came back.
I kind of like that story. That's like turning tables.
It happens. Well, that's Robert Pattinson.
That is Robert Pattinson. But first of all, maybe not the smart play to try to go on a date with a stalker who has been outside your home for weeks. Yeah. But also, it's kind of hilarious. That's like a hilarious anecdote where like he gets so needy with her that like the stalker was just like, "Look, you're a bit much. I think we should just be friends."
Yeah, I'm gonna stop stalking.
But also, it might be absolutely like the most genius thing ever if he was just like, how do I get rid of this stalker? I'm just gonna go down and scare her away.
But that just goes to show, like, that stalker obviously freaking in love with the guy. It just goes to show my point. The second you tell a girl anything about, like, anything personal about yourself, she's gonna lose interest.
Yeah,
it's just science.
Also, I think that that's an interesting point. I think the point too is that, you know, when you have an idealized notion of a person, you put that person on a pedestal. It's like the never meet your heroes.
Yeah, and you always hear girls say the more mysterious a guy is, the more attractive he is.
That and like the more mean he is to me, like
that starts all the way back in kindergarten. All right, remember when teachers would tell the girls, they're like, "Oh, that guy's just being mean to you because he has a crush on you."
Yeah,
he just doesn't like you.
That's bad advice. Yeah, that's bad scholarship right there. All right.
Anyways,
sad news that broke last night. This story really it just made me depressed. And this is a local story, a sports story too, but we'd like to have fun in this last segment. Staples Center, the house that Kobe built. More on that in a bit.
That's what it should be named.
And the Staples Center opened for business in 1999, I want to say. And they signed a licensing agreement with Staples Corporation. AEG is the company that owns Staples Center. And as we've seen, you know, naming rights for stadiums, it's a ubiquitous part of sports culture where, you know, you have company comes in, say, for example, Mercedes or Staples for this matter, and they pay the team or the team and the company that owns the arena a big, handsome sum to have naming rights on that stadium. I mean, we have the Staples Center, we have the Mercedes-Benz Dome, we have the Fleet Center, every stadium out there. Honda Center, of course. And it was announced last night that the Staples Center will change the name on Christmas Day from the Staples Center to the Crypto.com Arena. Okay, a lot to unpack here. I've spoken before on this broadcast about how cryptocurrency is a scam, how it's not real, how it's a fictitious currency that is really not used for exchange for goods and services, but is rather used as a speculation device, that it's terrible for the environment. And to see Staples Center, the Bus family and AEG decide to, and I mean, listen, folks, I can understand this if you are perhaps maybe like the Charlotte Bobcats or the Arizona Wild or something like that, a low market, low tier team that wants to get revenue anywhere they can. I can understand that. But folks, this is the Los Angeles Lakers.
Yeah, the most historic basketball team in history.
Them and the Celtics for sure. Do you see that Boston Garden changing their name to like
to
Pornhub Arena?
Yeah. Boston Garden actually did change to TD Garden.
But TD is a financial institution. And I was talking to a buddy about, I'm going to bring this up. I was talking to a buddy about this last night once this name change was announced, that arena names used to be classy statements on American industrialistness. It was, the Great Western Forum, the United Center, American Airlines Arena, Ford Field, corporations that are examples of American exceptionalism in industry and in finance. Now we have the Crypto.com Arena. But here's the details, though. This is a 20-year agreement. Well, I should back up. When Staples initially purchased the naming rights for what is now Staples Center,
that was a 10-year agreement, right?
I believe it was a 20-year agreement with an out.
Oh, with an out.
And I believe, don't quote me on this, I believe the naming rights initially were $100 million. This new deal with Crypto.com is another 20-year agreement, $700 million. $700 million.
Definitely see why they did it.
There's two things here. First of all, if Crypto.com has $700 million, that's one thing. But will they get bang for their buck? Because everybody on Twitter last night was saying it's still going to be called Staples Center. It's still colloquially called, because like you said about Boston, about the TD Center, they still call it the Boston Garden. Colloquially.
Yeah, they do.
Fans and just people, just even the layman will call it Boston Garden.
No, but also the New York Times article I read, or LA Times, sorry. It was saying they're getting rid of every single thing that says Staples on it. So even on the top of the stadium, on the inside, the 3,000 square feet where the Magic Johnson statue is, it's going to be a little crypto area now where you can start up crypto or something weird like that. Don't quote me on that. It is going to be a crypto area. I forget exactly.
I mean, what's next? Are they going to get the players tied to like electronic bicycles that power generators that mine Bitcoin?
I don't know. But apparently the crypto.com people, they also have signed partnership deals with the UFC, Formula One Racing, the Philadelphia 76ers, the Montreal Canadiens, and the Italian Liga Serie A soccer league. Sorry, I can't pronounce that correctly. As well as a Paris Saint-Germain football club and Twitch rivals. So apparently they have a lot of big money deals going on.
Listen, any economist out there, Jamie Dimon, he's a CEO and personal force behind JD Morgan Chase. I mean, he says that crypto's a bubble. Warren Buffett says crypto's useless. Larry Summers, former Treasury Secretary, he says it's a bubble. It's not real. It's not real, folks. And we've seen this before. I mean, the Houston Astros used to be named Enron Field. What happened to Enron? And cryptocurrency is just what the name implies. And you said something funny, but people are just going to refer to it as the crypt.
Yeah. That's the only kind of cool part about it, but still, it's going to be like really strange not to hear the Staples Center or see it. That's my biggest thing is the aerial view from above, you know, when you look at the stadium. Staples is no longer going to be there.
And that's what crypto.com wants. And also, every time that the Lakers are on a national TV broadcast, the first thing the announcers will say is live from the crypto.com arena.
Why do we have to have .com in there? It just sounds like a website. Welcome to our website arena. That's what they should say instead.
This is a funny tweet from Patrick Claiborne. And he says, it's not a fair... This is when I spoke about the Enron Field, which was, you know, and everybody knows that Enron was a Ponzi scheme, pretty much, that went out of business, defrauded a lot of people. And he says that comparing crypto.com to Enron is not a fair comparison. One was essentially energy trading for the purpose of massive accounting fraud for the enrichment of a few. And the other was Enron.
Oh my God.
Because that's what it is, folks. It's about speculation. It's not about consumer choice. And it's just amazing to me that a lot of smart people I know have embraced cryptocurrency as the future.
And this NFT stuff, I mean, I guess it makes sense to some extent, but then I always get to the point where it's just like, wait, what? It literally does that to me.
I've become kind of in the family. I become the explainer to a lot of my older relatives about technology. Pretty good at it. Pretty tech savvy guy. But when I try to explain Bitcoin, when I try to explain blockchain, when I try to explain NFTs, it doesn't work. I just can't do it.
It's like another language, man. It's similar to learning what's that? Trigonometry, you know?
At least with trigonometry you can build a bridge with it. With cryptocurrency, with NFTs, and with the blockchain, the only thing you can do is bankrupt yourself and quite possibly the nation. Davi, out.
I'm Al Simon, 91 years young. I created Balance 7 20 years ago. At 67, I went to see the doctor for the first time in my life and found that I had medical problems. He told me that was normal for my age. I don't believe God